Hi, and welcome to the Pathways to Grade Level Reading Overview webinar. This is intended to serve as about a 10-minute overview of the process to date. My name is Mandy Ableidinger, and I'm the Policy and Practice Leader at the North Carolina Early Childhood Foundation, and I am helping to shepherd the Pathways work along. Pathways is an initiative of the North Carolina Early Childhood Foundation in partnership with our close partners NC Child, the North Carolina Partnership for Children, and Best NC. Pathways believes that by collaborating and by working together, we can accomplish so much more for young children and their families than any one of our organizations could accomplish on our own. The initiative has a very bold vision that all North Carolina children, regardless of race, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status, are reading on grade level by the end of third grade. And all children with disabilities achieve expressive and receptive communication skills commensurate with their developmental ages, so that they have the greatest opportunity for life success. And this vision is urgent. We know that nearly 70% of jobs in our state will require some post-secondary education by 2020, which is in just 3 years. And we know that already nearly 40% of employers in our state have reported having difficulty hiring because the pool of workers doesn't have the education and training that they require. Given that reality, then consider the fact that only a third of our high school students are meeting ACT college readiness benchmarks in reading. So our high school kids aren't ready for college. And only 38% of our fourth graders score at or above proficiency in reading, as measured by the National Assessment of Educational Progress. And if you disaggregate that fourth grade number further by income, by race, by English language learner status, the numbers for many groups of children drop even lower. So why are we focused on birth through 8? We know that the end of third grade reading proficiency really predicts academic achievement and career success. In fact, research tells us that children who aren't reading at grade level by the end of third grade are 4 times more likely to drop out of school rather than graduating from high school. The good news is that this vision is achievable. Every child in our state can have the opportunity to be on track by third grade if we align our policies and our practices and root them in child development, including these 3 important domains of child development: health and development on track, starting at birth, supported and supportive families and communities, and high quality birth through age 8 learning environments with regular attendance. And we know how to do this in our state. We have a really impressive track record of accomplishing amazing things for children. North Carolina pioneered the nation's first comprehensive early childhood initiative, the Amazing Smart Start, which works across sector and across disciplines to bring all the domains of a child's life together and consider them in the context of their families. This state is home to the nation's highest quality public pre-kindergarten program, NC Pre-K, that consistently ranks first in the state on the NEAR assessment, hitting all 10 benchmarks. North Carolina was also the first to make full-day kindergarten universally available, and now we're leading the nation in developing a kindergarten through third grade formative assessment, so an developmentally appropriate assessment for young children. It is time to build on that great track record. We are bringing together a diverse group of dedicated leaders to really tackle this challenge in our state. The Pathways work has intentionally been cross-sector, working across disciplines, across government, private business, and nonprofits, across systems, so birth through 5 and K through 3, and across the political aisle. And more than 100 people have already attended Pathways Partners meetings, have committed to moving this work forward, and new people are joining us every day, and we hope that you'll join us too. The state and community decision makers are at the table. They've met several times, and they are guiding this work as it moves forward. And most importantly, the Pathways partners are driven by possibility. This work is very forward-looking, very aspirational. We ask what would be possible if we developed measures that we agreed on that put all children on the pathway to grade level reading and used those measures to move our policy and practice forward. What if we aligned our policies and practices and rooted them in how children actually develop? And what if we coordinated strategies among our organizations to really support children's optimal development beginning at birth? So the Pathways partners developed some principles for their work together. There's a big list here. I'll just note a few of them: being data and research driven, being committed to increasing equity and decreasing disparities, really focusing on the whole child. Children don't come in silos, and neither should our work, and being transparent and accountable to each other and to families and children. So Pathways is helping to guide the state through a several-step process. And this is a quick outline, and then we'll walk through some of the steps in a little more detail in a minute. So the first step was to identify research-based measures that will really move the needle on third grade reading, and then to see how North Carolina was doing on those measures, including where the big gaps and disparities lay. Then we needed to determine where it was most important to move to action first and develop strategies to really make progress on those chosen measures. And then also we want to develop strategies to improve data collection and data analysis. As many of you know, the data that we want to be able to track children's growth and development is not always available. And then finally, Pathways will be supporting the creation of a state-level task force on third grade reading to help move these strategies along both administratively and legislatively. So first we started with, where do we want to go? What are our shared measures, the things we all agree we need to work toward collectively? So the first phase of the work was to really identify through research what factors matter for improving third grade reading proficiency. And we had a data action team of 30 experts in our state who identified 50 or 60 measures that move the needle on early literacy. We then took those to the larger Pathways Partners group, and they approved those set of measures, with almost all the respondents saying that they felt confident that if we made progress on those measures, we would really, as a state, improve third grade reading outcomes. So once we knew where we wanted to go, we needed to understand where we are now. How are we doing as a state, and where do we need to act first? So in the second phase of the work, we had learning teams that considered the North Carolina data behind those measures, considering how North Carolina is doing overall versus other states or national average, and also what the disparities are among groups of children within the state. We're very focused on equity in this project. The data was disaggregated by race and ethnicity, by income, by geography, and even age, where that data was available. And the learning teams considered all of that data and then chose 7 areas to really act on first, and they're listed here. So the Pathways partners identified the key measures that matter for third grade reading. They explored how North Carolina was doing on those measures, and then they chose where to move to action first. So now we're starting the next stage of the work. What are we going to do? Phase 3 will involve design teams who are creating policy and practice and program and capacity building agendas to really advance those chosen measures in North Carolina. The agendas that are created will serve as Pathways platform for moving forward on third grade reading, and Pathways will also work to implement these strategies through appropriate channels, including seeking the creation of a birth to 8 grade level reading task force, as I mentioned before. So this diagram kind of shows you the setup for how these capacity agendas will be written. So the larger stakeholder group, the orange box of Pathways Partners, has been meeting regularly throughout this whole process to guide the work and make key decisions at key decision points. They've now launched this design team, that top blue box. These teams will work for the next year to propose strategies for action around these prioritized measures. The work is set up to be intentionally thoughtful with 3 months in between meetings so that that information can be gathered as needed. The work will especially focus on reducing disparities. We want to ensure, though, that those conversations don't happen in a vacuum. And so Pathways is sponsoring surveys and conversations with parents, so the blue box on the left, and community conversations with providers who work directly with children and families, so the blue box down on the right, to find out what their challenges and their opportunities are in supporting the success of young children and their families, and also to get their feedback on some of the proposed strategies for action that are coming out of those state-level design teams. We're ensuring that the design teams are not working in a state-level vacuum. So out of all of those blue boxes, out of that work, will come the policy, practice, and capacity agendas that the design teams will be creating, along with strategies to really move to action on the key measures that are selected by the Pathways partners. And the great thing is, we're already seeing some early wins around our collective work. So, congratulations. Pathways is being used as a tool by different state and local organizational partners across the state to really align their work around the kinds of factors that move the needle on third grade reading. The General Assembly has also recognized the shared measures in the 2016 budget as a useful tool in really creating greater coordination across child and family serving divisions and departments. You can get involved. The Pathways partners have met 3 times over the last year and a half, and we are looking for more partners all the time. So here is a whole list of ways that you could get involved in the Pathways work, and we hope you do. Thank you so much for taking some time to learn the basics of the Pathways to Grade Level Reading process to date. We are making other short webinars on each phase of the Pathways work, so the development of the shared measures, the looking into the North Carolina data to determine where we need to move to action first, and then the design team process, which is about to start. And we will upload those webinars soon if you're interested in a little more detail. We hope that you'll join us in this work. We know that by working together, we can really make a meaningful and a lasting difference in the lives of North Carolina's young children and their families.